back from Spain, Andreas of Austria, back in Vienna.
No,
Andreas, welcome
actually, I'm
home.
not in Vienna at the moment. Now
Not?
I'm mostly in the countryside at my parents' place.
Oh, they have like a country estate.
Uh, Austria is such a small country. It's not far from the German border.
Oh, so it's like a forest area, a natural
No,
setting.
it's not very natural. It's very agricultural. It's not very exciting. It's flat, just a few hills, mostly agriculture. It's nothing beautiful, but it's a good place to grow up. There's enough jobs. There's enough good jobs here, and people having a good life here. Actually, it's not too
But
overpopulated.
you never grew up
No,
there
I
though.
did,
You
I
didn't go
did,
to
I
school there.
did. This
Oh,
and
you
this is
did.
what I say. It's a perfect place to grow up. It's not a place where I want to live again. Even though the house where I'm right now has even a small creek or river just behind the house, and you can go for a swim there or a dip at least in summertime when it's extremely hot outside. There's a lot of trees here near the house. Actually, my parents have the greenest garden in the whole part of the village. There's so many plants here. They love gardening.
So you can go and sit in the garden and read a book.
Yeah.
It's very pleasant.
There's a lot of bees here. My father is a bees here too. He's a beekeeper, so I don't like to spend too much time in the backyard. But on the terrace, yes.
He's a
Yeah.
beekeeper. I did not. You never told me that before.
Okay. Yeah. There's so many secrets still.
It's a whole secret life. I thought you were just this simple Viennese airport worker. Turns out you're a man of the countryside and gardening
No,
and
I'm not.
beekeeping.
I try to become a person of the countryside. Not beekeeping. That's too much work, and I'm not a big fan of honey. I mean, I eat it, but I don't have to have it. I prefer marmalade.
Well, you know what they say about honey is you're supposed to eat local honey because it helps your immune system have immunity to local
Yeah,
bacteria.
yeah. There's other things too that improves the immune system. But yeah, it's definitely true, and I can always. I mean, you can buy local honey everywhere nowadays.
Yes, yes. Even here in
Yeah,
Texas,
of course.
got good local honey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you still in Dallas, or any changes already? When are you becoming the person of the countryside in the Davis Mountains? You told me a few months ago.
Well, it's still a plan. It's still a plan. I think probably at least another year here in Dallas.
Okay.
I would like to, and then I'd like to get to West Texas. But one of the difficulties to going to West Texas is the oil fields. There's a lot of oil production going on there. So many of these places are filled with oil
Mm-hmm.
workers, and these guys make a lot of money and they work very hard. So it drives up the prices of housing.
Okay.
It's very expensive. It can be very expensive to live in parts of West Texas. So I was looking at one part of West Texas near Marfa, but it seems the prices are very high, and I discovered that it's still part of this oil area.
Okay.
So I want to be able to be around near that area, but not in the oil region exactly.
Mm.
It's called the Permian Basin. It's this big underground oil deposit that they're all sucking the oil out of.
Okay.
So we can drive our big cars and have plastic, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. It's
Yeah,
great.
there's a change happening. There's this Swedish girl in your country right now, and she's making big changes, even to American people with their big pickup trucks and plastic bags.
Well, if she had any guts, she would try and come and say those words in Texas. She should try and go to the Permian Basin and try and say those things to all these oil workers.
I
Tell them
think
that how bad
I
they are.
think I think she is brave enough to do this if she knew about it. But
Yeah, she probably
yeah,
is. She sounds like a very nice young
yeah.
girl. I'm I'm sure it's going to look great on her resume, and she's going to go off and make lots of money in the future. Be very popular.
I don't know. Maybe the whole thing destroys her.
Yeah. Well,
at least I told you already. Today was election day. At least she could change the election result in Austria a little bit, or quite a bit actually. So the environmental party gained quite a few percents.
So she did have an effect in
Yes.
Austria. Wow, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And across Europe, is she having an effect with other Green parties in other countries?
I guess so, but there was only an election in Austria, so I'm not sure.
And you think it's because perhaps the young people are much more environmental?
Yeah, so this party was mostly elected by young people, and because they gained basically, I think, compared to the last result 2 years ago, 130%, something like this. So she was definitely a big reason why they gained so much. But then again, if they can change anything, you'll never know. We'll find out in a couple of months, years. I'm in Vienna. They're also part of the city government, and I'm very happy with the things they changed there. So there's a movement towards public transportation. So they offer a very cheap ticket for 1 year, for basically €1 a day, and you can take all public transportation in Vienna. Yeah, that's in general. There's a lot of infrastructure projects, new metro lines, trains, buses, trams. So the public transportation system in Vienna is extremely good. So maybe they can do something similar, because it would be the first time that they are in the government of the country, not only of provinces or states. Maybe they could make bigger changes. But they lost. Or they had such a bad result 2 years ago because they only focused on feminism topics.
Yeah. So they moved away from the feminism.
Yeah, because nowadays it's just climate change because of Greta.
Well, it's quite interesting that the climate change stuff. There over the last few years, there is definitely warming. that's for sure.
I can see it. Whenever I'm diving, I see global warming happening. So many coral reefs are bleaching, which means they are dying.
Yeah, there definitely is warming happening, but if you look at the thing is, when you look at climate, you have to look over a much longer time span. And they've taken these. I don't know if you've heard of this Greenland ice boring. They took this massive tube of ice out of the Greenland ice shelf, so they can look back at the climate from 10 million years ago. I mean, they can look at all these years back into the ice ages. And then they can, within the ice, look at the amount of carbon that's in the ice to get an estimate of what the temperatures were like. And in fact, what they find is that there was a massive warming that brought us out of the ice age like 10 to 13,000 years ago. And there were these big climate spikes during that time. And so it got very hot, and then it got very cold again. There were mini ice ages between this. And then it's shown this whole period of warming, which caused the result basically in the last 13,000 years of agriculture being possible and farming, and all of this world that we know today was all because of this massive warm spell that happened after the ice age ended. But what you're seeing is the trend is actually back towards cooling, the overall trend. You're looking right now in the last 100 years of like a movement into warming, but that's a small movement within a much greater trend, which is actually cooling. That's one of the reasons why in the 1970s people were talking about a coming ice age. They were talking about another ice age because the trend still at that time, the way they were looking at it was for cooling, not for warming. So we're kind of looking at the last like 10 years, and we're taking that as a reason for saying everything is getting hotter. But if you look really over what the Greenland ice bore is telling you, it's a cooling trend that we're in, and but still, it's very inconclusive. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to say, and it's interesting that someone could take something that's very scientific, that seems to be so factual, and they could read it in two completely different directions and make political ideas based upon this science essentially. But that's what's happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a manipulation by human beings, even though there's a general trend more towards colder temperatures. We are still increasing the temperatures. But I mean, for me as a diver, as a person that likes being on the ocean, I can see that there's just too much plastic in this world, and in the ocean I can see it mostly. And this is something we have to address. I think, and also the global warming is definitely happening in the ocean. I'm not sure about air temperature. You know, I come from a country which, I mean, I enjoy hot summers in Austria. They're beautiful, so I don't complain if there's. But obviously, there's a lot of people leaving their homes because it's getting too crazy, the weather there. But yeah, coral reefs are definitely dying, and that's a very important ecosystem. And I'm not sure if these ecosystems died 13,000 years ago when the ice age was over, or I think also 2,000 years, something like this. There was a way more warmer temperature than nowadays when the Roman Empire could expand so much.
Yeah, there was. They look back in. I think there was a massive cooling period in the Middle Ages. There are these periods where things happened, and what's interesting is that when you read books of history, political history, they don't often mention the weather. But the weather or volcanoes going off, if you kind of look at earthquakes and volcanoes and big disruptions that come from the environment, they do have real political effects. And we tend to read history as something that's man-made. But I think the earth is much more important to history than men are. Even the whole idea of agriculture. We have this idea that man just discovered how to farm. That's not true at all. The earth allowed men to farm. The earth took the ice away somehow. And by some system, we have no clue how it works. We have no clue how the climate operates. We have no clue how an ice age ends or why. It certainly didn't end because men were producing carbon 13,000 years ago that heated the earth and melted the ice. There weren't any cars and carbon producers to destroy the planet, that destroy the ice. So we don't know why the earth heats and cools itself. But we do know that there are certain things that men have learned because of trying to survive on the earth, as all animals have, living and dying. And how about asteroids, like the asteroid that hit the earth 65 million years ago and killed all the dinosaurs in one day? It's very interesting. That's why whenever an earthquake happens, I'm always very excited by it. It's a great reminder that there are much more powerful forces at work than the Green Party in Austria and the Donald Trump. It's a welcome reminder that these things don't matter. The earth is doing its thing. The universe is doing its thing.
I don't know. I mean, it's still not a healthy lifestyle we have nowadays. I think not for us and not for other creatures that live on this planet too. So we should definitely get some awareness how to live more consciously, and not just consume and produce and just get manipulated. Because we have to maximize the profits of companies. So there's definitely, I think, a need for change. I'm not sure if it's going to be possible because I don't think that most people are willing to sacrifice a lifestyle or certain levels of a lifestyle they have now. I think it's actually very nice and it makes me much more much happier actually to be a minimalist person. I mean, I'm not a minimalist person. I still have some some weird things. I'm a geek. But I buy mostly used stuff, and at the moment I had to pack all of my stuff anyway. So 90% of the stuff I own fits under one bed. Can you imagine this?
That's great.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
really
it's a
great.
big bed. It's not a small bed.
Well, but you know how exciting that makes you feel, and it also eliminates one thing. You eliminate consumption, but one of the things tied to consumption, which I think you have broken with, is the thrill it gets from buying
No,
things.
it's not true. I like even looking up stuff online, but I just like I don't like buying things that exist in big quantities. You know what I mean? I like to find things. So I want to have a certain idea of what I need, and then I look it up on the internet and find it used secondhand, and then I try to get it used. I don't want to buy. I mean, of course, I recently had to buy a computer because my 6-year-old one broke. So right now this podcast is recorded on a new computer. I could have bought the old one. Actually, I bought used, but I needed something very quick because the other one broke. Yeah, no, but mostly
But
I I can get excited by finding used stuff. Just recently, I bought an old video game for €1. I did,
you bought a video
yeah,
game?
because it reminded me of the past, and then I looked it up on eBay because I just found it accidentally because I was looking for something else, and then I found it on eBay, and it's on eBay for $400. Yeah.
$400?
So I mean,
That's
yeah,
expensive.
I'm not going to sell it anyway, but I was very excited that I even found it, even though I was not looking for it, and I thought, okay, €1, why not?
Well, it sounds though like but when you're talking about buying things, you're talking about just very special things that you need or that stand out to you. It's not, some people are just buying stuff all the
Yeah,
time. It's just
it's true.
stuff.
When the computer arrived, I was not very excited actually.
Yeah, I still need to get a new computer, and I kind of use them until they totally wear out. They're just broken and destroyed, and then I
Yeah.
get another one. It's not going to be exciting to get a new
No,
one, actually.
it's
But
just a computer. Nothing with the soul like many other things have. Handmade stuff
yeah,
is
but
something very nice.
but one of
Your records. You love your records. There's something inside them that a computer cannot have nowadays. Probably for some Apple fans, when they buy a new Apple computer, they can feel it. But
yeah, the records are they're probably the one exciting object that I have that I own. They're the only reason why I think that living in an apartment is a good thing. They justify the apartment. Otherwise, I would be happy living in a tent. Just like you, having the stuff I can carry on a bicycle and bike bags and put up in a tent. That's all
yeah,
I
but
need.
I'm
But
done with this, to be honest. So I was, as you know, we had a long Skype call when I was in Spain. I was traveling in Spain for 2 months, and I'm done. So the maximum traveling time for me is 4 to 5 weeks, and then I need to get a daily routine again. I mean, I had a daily routine. I was hiking every day, basically, or almost every day. So I was very active, and but it's still you need some place where you come back every day, and then it should not be a tent or something. But I think I mean, this is a plan or an idea or a dream I have right now, because some parts of Spain I liked so much, and maybe I have to live in a tent for a while again while I'm building a small house. It's today I actually make I did a drawing of the small house I would like to build there, or somewhere. I have not bought property yet, or but I have some ideas where approximately it should be. And Spain can be very cheap, cheap land.
Do you want to build the house yourself?
Yeah, mostly. In the best case, it would be an existing house, like an abandoned house with these old stone walls, which are a couple of 100 years old, and I would like to also use this material for parts of the house, and I want to. I mean, first of all, I have to work a little bit. More anyway in Austria, a couple of years, maybe two more years, and in this time I want to collect stuff that other people got rid of, so basically for free, or I buy it used, and then I just load everything to a pickup truck, to a truck, and then I bring it down to Spain, and then I start building there. And the house should be very small, just 5 by 10 meters. Only 3 rooms, so a bathroom, a small sleeping room, and the big room is basically the kitchen and the living room with a big window or glass door which leads to the terrace, which should have a wonderful view across the beautiful landscape of Spain. And you cannot imagine how beautiful Spain can be. It's because the region that I like so much, it's almost as big as Austria. It's part of a couple of provinces, 3 provinces, and it has the lowest population in all Europe, including Siberia. And there is
Really?
there's no people, and there's just natural beauty. I did not expect this when I had the plan to go to Spain, that I will discover something. I was swimming in the cleanest river in Europe, and this river is just something extraordinary. And not only this river, the mountains there, the scenery, the views. I always called them vistas. It was just, when I took the train or the bus, and even if it was a 4 or 5 hours bus ride, I never got bored, because I looked out of the window and everything was just pure beauty. But one thing I discovered too, I mean, I knew this already before, but it's getting stronger and stronger. Whenever I come to a city, I feel I get stressed. It's just not an environment anymore that I can handle very much. It's very difficult. And I think that's also one reason why in Vienna, maybe I'm not that active, because I'm probably hiding from this not very healthy environment. I don't know, but Spain is definitely a big plan of mine at the moment, and that would also lead to exciting purchases if I find some nice furniture which I can, like old furniture, with proper wood, good quality, and I can how do you say, revitalize it, put some new restore it, and put some new life with my own hands and ideas into it. I did this already a little bit, and it's I think this could be very satisfying work once the house is partly or mostly built. Then I can focus on projects like this. I won't have much furniture anyway, because it's a small house, but I don't need much.
Right. No, it sounds very exciting. But getting back to the whole idea of having a base, I really like the idea of having a base. Not living on the road. It's very hard to just travel and travel. I agree with you. You were saying about 6 weeks is kind of the limit for travel.
Yeah, maximum.
Yeah, I feel like that too. After 6 weeks, like on a bicycle and camping every day, I just wanted to stop and have a place to stay and try and get back to a routine. I think having a routine, especially if you're trying to write stuff and think stuff, a routine is very important. You want to just turn your life into just eating and sleeping and doing the same thing every day, and then you're released. You have this good discipline in terms of your diet and where you go every day. and that is the release you need to think the big thoughts and do creative work. Otherwise, you're just disrupted all the time. But the disruption is also good too. Yeah, eventually, you need to just break out and travel around. A good 6 weeks of travel is great. It's very stimulating.
Yeah, I don't know why not many people actually do this. You get to know yourself a little bit.
Yeah, and Spain is also a wonderful country, I think, for that kind of a trip.
Yes, it is.
Very exciting country. And so you went. How far south did you go?
The furthest south was actually when we went to Valencia, and after 2 days we left. We went back the same way because we passed some mountains there. So we had to go to Barcelona to fly back. But then we decided to go back to the mountains because the coast, it is very developed in terms of infrastructure. So most people, of course, live along the coast in Spain, and most tourists go to places along the coast in Spain. So nobody goes there to these parts that I liked so much. So we went back there, and it was a good decision. That was the furthest in the south, Valencia, and approximately the same level, but more 150 kilometers inland.
Right.
But we started in the north. We started in Oviedo, near the Atlantic Ocean in the north, where the Camino de Santiago, the pilgrim trails are.
And where is that located? You said near the Atlantic Ocean. That's near the French border.
That's more in the center of the north where we were. It's called Asturias. They still have some bears there. Beautiful mountains. If you're interested, the major mountain range of the Cantabrian mountains is called Picos de Europa. It's a coastal or almost a coastal mountain range, reaching 2,600 something meters. And very nicely shaped, looks very interesting, and you can see them from the ocean. That's the reason why they're called Picos de Europa, because the sailors back in the day, they could see them first before they saw other land.
Huh. Yeah, when we were talking before, I was telling you that I've really wanted to get back to Spain now that I can speak Spanish. Well, when I was there, it was years ago, and I didn't speak any Spanish. It's very, very difficult. But especially the countryside that I was down in Andalusia. You didn't get that far.
I would like to visit it, also to do some diving probably, but I think Andalusia would be too dry for me, and it's getting a desert. I mean, the climate change, or this thing that is happening, it makes Spain definitely more a desert in the south. So the Sahara Desert is coming north, that's for sure. I like the vegetation of the places where I went. There's still a lot of green. There's rivers. I think I would miss it if it's just dry and hot. This would not be a place that I would enjoy for the rest of my life. What I liked very much about the climate there. Sorry, because Spain is basically a very high country. So most people just think, okay, beautiful beaches and Barcelona and Madrid and stuff like this, but there's a lot more. First of all, they have a lot of mountain ranges there, which most people don't even know, even Europeans. But mostly, and also people think it's very hot there, which is also not true, because it's a plateau, and a big part, or I think 2/3 of Spain, is basically at an altitude or elevation of 1,000 meters. So the the weather is very, very nice in summer, I think, because you get these very hot days with 35 degrees Celsius. like very, very hot, which I like. I mean, it doesn't have to be 35, but if it's 30, then it's still beautiful. But in the night it cools down, because here in Austria we get, also coming back to climate change, we get a lot more tropical nights nowadays than 10, 15, 20 years. So the nights are very hot, and it's not very common to have an aircon in Austria. So it's very hard to sleep. It was like this in the last few summers here in Austria. And in Spain, you don't have this problem, because the elevation of 1,000 meters cools down the temperature so much that actually you need to cover yourself during the night, because it's cold. It's 16, 17 degrees. It's cold, but it's not, it's not like 20, 24 where you're still sweating in bed.
Right.
So a lot of things that I liked very much about Spain, which made me think, okay, maybe Spain is a better place to look for my future home compared to South America. I mean, nothing compares to the beauty of South America, I think, but Spain has definitely some regions that can easily compare with your countryside places in the States or in South America. Very beautiful.
Well, one of the other advantages too is that it's the European Union.
Yeah.
So it makes
so
everything
for me,
easier
it would be very easy to just buy a piece of land there and live there.
Well, I mean, the problem, like for me, I even found out is when I helped to invest in an apartment in Bogota. It's basically impossible to get your money back out of the country of Colombia.
Okay.
You can't. So that was it was very complicated. It's very easy to bring money into those countries in South America, but you can't get out if you want to get out. That's why a lot of these retirees who retire there, they agree that they're going to put their money into these countries, and then they're basically stuck. They can never leave. So yes, it's very beautiful, and South America presents itself as being a wonderful place, but it's a black hole for going there. If you invest, you're going to have to either leave your investment, or if you want to leave,
okay,
or you just stay. And yeah, I don't know. I still think there's a lot of political instability in South America. I really liked Argentina. I thought Argentina would be a beautiful place to live.
It's very beautiful, but it's probably the most unstable one when it comes to politics.
Yeah, it's awful. Yeah. All these people go there when times are good, and then times get bad suddenly, and then they all want to leave and they can't go. I wonder what all those Americans who open the wineries are doing in Mendoza, if they survive or what's going on.
I can imagine that this business is still very stable, because Argentinian wine you buy everywhere in the world. It's very popular wine.
I suppose so.
Yeah.
I suppose.
So they just
but
export.
I mean, you have to go through periods of. But you have to go through periods of these politically unstable periods where you're taxed heavily, or you have tariffs against your products, or there all kinds of things go on.
By the way, Spain has incredible wine too. It's actually the biggest exporter of wine. Also a reason why I liked it very much there. But yeah.
So you were drinking a lot of wine.
No, not a lot of regions? Wine, but sometimes a little bit too much, because when you order a lunch dish, like they call it menú del día, then you get a free beverage and you can choose between whatever you want, and then sometimes you say red wine, and then you get a whole bottle. And at the beginning,
you get a free bottle.
Yeah, I did not know. Okay, so should I just pour one glass, or it's good, I take another one, and then I start liking it. I got drunk, and then I had the whole bottle because my travel companion, she was not drinking alcohol much, so yeah.
She wouldn't help you.
Yeah.
You had to finish it yourself.
And it was the same price as they mentioned on the board. So I had the whole bottle. It was just table wine, but it's good wine. Very surprising. Another reason why I like Spain very much, because many things are much cheaper than in Austria. So the cost of living is definitely lower than here. Very important factor when it comes to the choice where you want to live, because my life is based on how much money I spend and not how much money I earn.
Right, but also they have the great siesta.
So no, this is horrible.
Wine,
this is horrible.
You just go to sleep.
No, this is horrible. That's one thing that I did not like at all. Lazy or
you don't like the siesta?
No, because I don't care about the heat, you know. So if it's still very hot, I don't care if I have to stay outside and be active. But then you cannot do anything. You want to buy a bottle of water and you cannot, because everything is just closed down. I mean, it's not just the case in the cities, but in the small, because I was mostly in small villages. Everything is just closed. You cannot do anything. Or sometimes you arrive from a hike. You did not have lunch. You want to eat something, and there's nothing open. It's horrible. Siesta is horrible.
I used to think that, but then I changed my mind about that. I think it's a great thing that you just shut everything down and you can't get anything.
Yeah.
I think it's wonderful.
Maybe when you live there, then it's acceptable, because then you can adapt to it. But when you're traveling there, when you're physically very active and you have to rely on things you have to get. So sometimes I was very hungry and I did not have much access to food that I actually wanted. They have these vending machines in many places nowadays. In smaller towns. How did they? Autoservicio, I think they called them. But this is something I don't want to. I don't want to use. Siesta is something I definitely have to get used to, I think.
Yes, but I found, like, at least in Argentina, because they have this siesta there, I'd be cycling, and I would basically think, okay, I'm going to pass through this small town, but if I pass through at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, it's going to be siesta. So I'm not going to be able to get any food. So I would try and schedule my day so that I would be at places when I knew that things would be open. But one of the things you do see, though, is that in towns where it's hotter for a longer period during the day, they might take a 4-hour siesta, a 5-hour siesta. It just might last for a long part of the day. Mm-hmm. And that can be very unpredictable. But it's kind of exciting, though, that you could be very, very hungry and have money and have to starve. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to us non-Spanish people. But I think it's a great reminder.
Yeah.
It's a great reminder your money doesn't work.
Yeah, but, having access to something, I mean, theoretically, it made me feel uncomfortable. I liked it because also every village worked differently, even though it was just a neighbor village, just 10 kilometers away from the one that was so quiet the whole day. And then you come to this very lively place where all the people are friendly or open or, just spending time outdoors, even if it's hot. I don't know. It's maybe also a mentality of the different villages. So siestas in some parts were, more difficult than in other villages.
It's just so interesting, though, how that develops. Mm-hmm. Like one village has different siesta times than another, and they could be very close to each other. It doesn't. That's the character of these different villages. That's exciting. That they could be so different but be so close. We just have this. It seems like for the most part, you look at the Western world and everything is becoming very homogeneous. Everything is becoming the same. So when you find places that maintain their local character and it's very strong, that's wonderful.
Yeah, they definitely do this much more than in Austria. these Spanish villages, they're definitely way more traditional and preserving their former lifestyle than what we do. I think.
In this one area that you're looking at, how easily do you think the people would accept you into
Very easy,
their
because
local
for
life?
example, near the most beautiful river, or the cleanest river in Europe, it's called Rio Cabriel. We went, so basically in Valencia we decided, okay, let's go back to the mountains. Then on the way back on the train I saw this river. Then we got off the station, but at the station of a small town. And then we saw the town, and I thought, okay, probably we should go back closer to the river. So we waited a couple of hours and took the next train back. So I think there's 3 or 4 trains between Cuenca and Valencia. So we took the train back, and I marked where the Rio Cabriel was. Then we got off near Cabriel. That I think that was 7 kilometers away from there. Then we got off this abandoned bus station. So there was basically just a small new structure made of concrete and metal, but the beautiful big building, which was formerly the train station, was abandoned, and it's falling apart. And these buildings are just beautiful. Once we stayed in one of those, and a guy made it a hostel along an old railway track, which became Ruta Verde, which is basically for cyclists and for people that like to spend time outdoors walking or riding bicycles, and they are very long. There's many of these Ruta Verdes in Spain. But anyway, we got off this this train station, and immediately we were, because the station was 2.5 kilometers out of the town. Then we started walking, and we were immediately asked by people if we want to or where we are going, and I just said, okay, we're going to the village. Then they asked us if we want to join them in their car, and so we got on the car. Then they said, oh, you want to take a look at the church, because it's a very beautiful church, and they, both of them were organ players. Because there was some
in the church.
There were
Church
some festivities in the town, and it's normally a town with 500 people. But anyway, so we went to the church, and they asked us where do we stay, and I said, no, we don't have anything yet, because we came here because it looked so beautiful from the train, so we came back. And then they said, okay, that's going to be a problem, because this town normally has 500, or this village has 500 people, and at the moment there's 2,500, because all of the people that grew up here, that now work in the cities, they came back because it's the week of the festivities. And then we tried to find some camping, asked around where we can stay, and nothing was just possible. And wild camping was very difficult, because it was very, very rocky, and it would have been very hard to sleep there. So it became dark already, and then we just asked a random person, and then he said, did you ask the mayor already? And I said, okay, what? And I don't understand. So he's, okay, come with me. So we went for 3 minutes, and then he rang the bell at the mayor's house, and the mayor looked out of the window, and he came out with a key in his hand, and then he just said to us, okay, follow us. And then we went another 3 minutes, and then he said, okay, he opened the door, and this is the albergue, that's the pilgrims hostel, even though it was not part of the, this big Camino de Santiago where most pilgrims walk in the north of Spain, because this was between Valencia and Cuenca. But of course, from all parts of Spain there is pilgrims, and at some point they reach near Santiago de Compostela. They reach the the most famous trail of the Santiago de Camino. But in this town, in this village, because it was all people were so helpful and so nice and friendly, and I think maybe you can see this even with this albergue, that they want to have this albergue even though it's not used very much. But we stayed there for free, and he also said, okay, you're not pilgrims, I don't care. You're backpackers that need help now. Just stay as long as you want. You don't have to pay, and enjoy the festivities.
Wow,
And
it's wonderful.
so that this village, was just such a nice experience. So we stayed there 2 nights, and we got to know other people there, and we had a wonderful time making.
What was the festival? What was going on?
I don't know. When was it? It was mid of August. I think it must have been. Yeah, mid of August approximately. There's some Catholic public holiday on a Thursday, I think, every year, and in Spain they celebrate the whole week from Sunday to Thursday or something. This is when all the people come back to their parents' or grandparents' place, and then they celebrate together. And it was just a wonderful experience. Very recommendable. And we took a look at, or there was this book where these pilgrims can write something inside. And in the year 2019, I think there was only 2 people that stayed in the pilgrims hostel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you write something in the book?
I think we did, but I don't remember what. I'm not very creative when it comes to this.
But you probably wrote your name, right?
Yeah,
That you stayed
I
at the
think we
hostel.
did this.
Yeah.
But I don't know if she wrote it or if I wrote something. I don't remember.
Yeah. And this town you discovered because you had a map of Spain and
No.
you were looking out the window?
No, I mean, I knew already, because on the way there, or on the way from Cuenca to Valencia on the train, I liked the scenery very much. And then I did not like Valencia very much, even though it's a very beautiful city. But don't go there in summertime. It's extremely crowded.
Probably a lot of tourists.
Yeah, a lot of tourists, and expensive. So go there in November or February, something like this. It's still nice, mild weather, not weather
I think
for
it's
swimming.
the birthplace of isn't the birthplace of paella, right?
Yeah, probably, yeah. So I knew the mountains already, because we stayed there a little bit, and then we took the train through these mountains. And then I knew already, okay, this looks just extremely nice. And then in Valencia, I did not like it that much. So, and I thought, okay, I will not like the whole Mediterranean coast either, all the way from Valencia to Barcelona. So why not head north, more inland, along the mountains? And this is what we did, and it turned out to be actually a good decision, because this is mostly the part in Spain where I want to find a small piece of land for me. And this is also part of this region that has the lowest population in Europe.
Before you took this trip, though, you had in mind that you were looking for some property, perhaps for the future.
You know, when
right?
when I travel, I always travel with this in my mind. I'm not traveling anymore just because of because Lonely Planet tells me to do that. This is beautiful.
That's where you have to go.
I want to find places that are untouched, cheap, and have the resources I need. I want to have a place that has, first of all, nice weather, enough sun, or better, a lot of sun, water, even in 40 years. And Spain, I think, because in the mountains you still get enough rain, and in winter even snow. So there's definitely ways to get the water you need for a simple life. But of course, if I had a different option, like a modern way to get water, then I would definitely prefer this. But I don't travel, or this is always a big part why I travel nowadays. I want to find a nice place. Probably I'm looking too long already, but Spain is until now definitely my favorite.
Yeah, I would actually agree with you. If I think of Europe, Spain is probably the one country I would want to be in.
And I mean, you show, or I looked up the Davis Mountains in Texas, and they actually look kind of similar to these places I'm talking about right now in Spain. So I think,
Well, it might be because of the elevation.
yeah,
Being at a little elevated, you get cooler summers than the rest of
yeah.
Texas. And it's also near to Marfa, which I told you is, I don't know if you looked that up at all, which is a very interesting town, very artistic.
Okay.
It's kind of filled with all the people. I think it's filled with people who like me wanted to get out of New York and LA and be in a rural setting. I think I haven't been there yet.
Okay.
It's still 9 hours, still 9.5 hours away by car.
Yeah, why don't you check it out?
I'm planning to.
You're an artist too. Maybe you like these people there.
Yeah, well, the thing is with artists, I either really I like them or I don't like them at all. It just depends. And but I think it's always nice to have something nearby that has the artists are nearby, just to know they're nearby. It's like living near the ocean. Like when I lived in Miami, it was always exciting to know the ocean was nearby, even though I never went to it.
Okay.
I knew it was there, but I didn't have to go. And that's just a good feeling. But so maybe it'll be like that. But I don't have to live in Marfa. We could live an hour and a half away. Maybe visit only occasionally. That might even be better. It'd be cheaper for sure.
But speaking of art, how are your arty projects coming along?
Well, the Shalamov book of poetry, the Kolyma notebooks, that's going to the printer tomorrow. So that is
how many pieces?
What do you mean? How many books?
Yeah, how many books? How many? Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It depends. It kind of depends upon the price the printer gives. If it's cheaper, because the printers they base your pricing on the amount of pages that you print. This book is actually going to be the same amount of pages as the Knut Hamsun poetry book. So the way the book design is right now, the book is going to be almost identical to the Hamsun book.
Does it have the same size?
Right, the same size. The text on the pages is basically going to be the same as the Hamsun.
Okay.
I really like that size. I think that's aesthetically with the negative space and particularly for poetry to have the white page. It's very important. The space on a page which doesn't have words printed on it is just as important as the words themselves. Especially with this Shalamov poetry, because it's very unlike the Hamsun poetry. It's much more vertical on the page. It doesn't spread wide. He doesn't have long lines.
Okay.
It's a lot of more narrow lines. So it kind of makes for a different reading experience.
Okay.
But I think it fits well with this book size. But yeah, you got a sense of it with the PDF you were looking at.
Yeah. It was a lot of white with a lot of beautiful white, which is as important as the text, right?
Well, yeah, but in this case though, the poems there's a lot of snow in the poems and blizzards, in blinding blizzards, and I feel like almost like the text is going to be like footprints in the snow. Like on a snow covered page, that's what it needs to be. Kind of, the snow overwhelms. Like in Kolyma, the snows were so intense and blinding, they would just overwhelm the environment and overwhelm the workers in the gulag. And so it's going to be like a blizzard, a lot of white text, but beautiful.
So you're happy with the translation?
I think Maxime did a great job. His English is perfect.
Okay.
So he knows what he's doing. But I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed with him. But of course, I've always been impressed with him. He's one of those extraordinary people. I told you about him before. He's from Tashkent, which he called the greatest city on earth. When I first met him in Ushuaia.
Yeah, talked about him. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, but so then all the hand binding and all the stuff with the blood on the pages, it has to start over again?
Yeah, I have to bleed.
So that was
again.
the reason why I asked you how many books you want to produce. Or produce, can you say produce?
Yeah.
Because
it's a factory. It's kind of a factory job. Here I have.
Where do you store all of these books once they're finished?
On the bookshelf. On the bookshelf.
How many Hamsun books do you have on your bookshelf?
I've still got quite a few.
Okay.
A few have disappeared from the shelves, and in fact, I still have more to make. I still have a box with covers for more books.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I haven't made them all.
Okay.
So I'm quite behind. In making them. But I told you is that they made more. The printer actually delivered 10 more copies of the Hamsun book than I'd even ordered.
Okay, but only the pages or also the covers and everything, all the rest you need?
Well, the first thing I do is I get the printer to produce the pages, and so then I hand bind the books with thread and glue, and I create these books. What I discovered was I had 10 more than I'd ordered, and so that meant when it came time for the next step to do the covers, I was going to have to make more covers. So I ended up having 10 more books than I wanted. But of course I had to make them. So, I wouldn't just not make those 10 books, those extra 10.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the covers came after I'd actually made the books. So I haven't made the cover yet for the Kolyma notebooks. I'm still working on that. What I'm going to do, but I want to do something different than I did for the Hamsun.
Different in terms of what?
In different construction. For the Hamsun, I had to go to a guy running a letterpress shop with a machine able to emboss the cover with the image in gold foil. And there's a very powerful machine with pressure and heat that does that into the cloth colored cardboard cover.
Okay.
And it was this cover I don't want to have anyone else involved with. I want to try and do it all myself. So I want to do something with an image of Shalamov, and then text, and I want the text to be a lino cut. And what that is you take a piece of linoleum and you carve with a special knife into the linoleum an image or words or letters, and then you put ink onto that lino cut and you press it into the paper, and that puts the words onto the paper. It's a kind of printing technique. It's an old printing technique, but that's something that I can do all myself. So, but that's going to come later. The first thing is to get the text printed, and then to bind. As I'm working on binding the books, I will also be working at the same time on the cover, and it'll all kind of happen at the same time. I expect probably the first books will be ready in another month or two.
Okay.
Which is kind of the timeline I was hoping for.
Yeah, that's good. And you're making Shalamov famous in the States.
Well, he's also becoming more famous because there's a guy who's translating all of his short stories.
Okay.
And there's one volume that appeared last year, And in January of next year, the second volume of these short stories from the Kolyma Gulag is going to appear. And I've told you about these stories before. These are just magical stories. They're so wonderful. Did you try and look for a German translation?
No, there is one, yeah.
Yeah, you would really love these. I told you they're like the Home Depot stories. Some of them, they really are.
Yeah, but it sounds so sad. The background of these stories there, Gulag stories. How can they be funny? I don't. Yeah.
They are. Some of them are. They're very funny.
Yeah,
some of them.
But it's because the Home Depot stories. Those are the ones I like so much.
Well, the Home Depot is a kind of gulag, don't you know?
Yeah, but when do you print these, or when do you produce these manually produced or made books of the Home Depot?
Oh, when is that going to happen?
Yeah.
That's either going to be the next book or the very next one. It's going to be
what could be the next one instead of the Home Depot stories?
I want to see if this book even exists. I want to reach out to the family of a guy who died of cancer in the early 80s. He was a scholar.
You told me about him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was a scholar of the poet Charles Olson, who is really a great American poet, kind of tangentially related to the whole Beat Generation people, but really interesting fellow. This guy was working on a biography of him when he died of cancer. I don't know about the how much of it he finished or whatever is there, but I want to come to the family. His sons are still alive, and I want to say, hey, look, I just want to publish whatever your father was working on in whatever form it was in, because he's really the only one who's understood Olson's poetry and understood Olson. So I imagine whatever he's written is going to be excellent. So that's what I want to publish next. So this will be a little bit different in that I'll be reaching out to somebody who I don't know at all, and I'll be able to say, look, we've already put out a couple of books, and
it should get easier for you in the future.
I think so. If you have nice enough books that you can show people that this is what you're doing, it's not going to make anyone any money. There can't be any capitalist interest. But I would say to them that perhaps, based on the interest in this small press run of these beautiful books, perhaps some major publisher would be interested in doing something with this work, and that would be for you to do it, and you could become very wealthy. But I will never become wealthy. Yeah.
What?
So that's
you're wealthy already.
I'm very
you're
wealthy.
a driver of
Look at all these
different kinds of vehicles. You make a lot of money.
That's the strange thing is you look at all these Western artists who are always talking about money and getting grants and getting jobs, and I can't understand it. You could work in America. You're making so much money. You have so much leisure time. You can buy all this stuff. Why would an artist and a creative person ever think about money? They should just think about making stuff. They should just think about the glory of creation, and then just go off and do some job. You could work at McDonald's and live in a tent and do all kinds of things. I mean, these are all beautiful jobs for most of the world. Billions of people would love to have these terrible jobs here. The complaints of artists, I'm just disgusted. I mean, what? What do you mean you need money? You need a grant. You need to be a professor. What do you want to do? Do you want to make money or do you want to make stuff? I mean, you got to make a choice here, because this money will corrupt you. Thinking about money it just dooms your work, dooms your art.
Yeah, but a little bit money is necessary, unfortunately. In Spain, if I really can fulfill this dream, I would like to have a very simple life with, obviously, I won't have a lot of income, but I want to be a very productive person. First of all, I would like to do a lot of gardening. So hopefully my parents can teach me some stuff. I want to grow a lot of food there, and I would like to work with wood. I don't know what I'm going to do with the things I produced with wood. Besides using it as my furniture, my own furniture, but maybe I can make people like it too. And but I don't want to spend so much time in the future, I think, in jobs which are basically only to make money. I think that's not the life I want to have in the second half of my life.
Yeah. What when you say you wanted to you want to make furniture?
No, I don't want to make furniture. I think I want to buy old furniture which I make beautiful again.
Yeah.
And or be creative and make something new out of it. Combine old furniture, because I have I'm not an arty person. I don't have a sense for art very much, but furniture, I just love Scandinavian style or design, 60s, 70s furniture stuff. This is just beautiful. It's hard, heavy wood, beautiful curves and shapes, and you find a lot of this stuff for very cheap online, and just buy a bunch of this and then make it look nice again.
Yeah, exactly. I also love this period. It's kind of like the last. In America, they call it the mid-modern period, MIMO. I don't know if they've named it in Europe, but the Scandinavian stuff is quite different than that too. But it's also it's from that same period. It's kind of like I view the 60s and 70s before things really became factory produced. It was kind of the last period where things were well made, at least in America, before 1974. You could get beautiful steel handmade bicycles. You could get handmade furniture. It was when people in America still knew how to make things.
What happened to your bicycle, actually, the foldable one? Do you still have it?
Yeah, it's here in my apartment. I have both folding bikes. I have another one, a beautiful one from 1970, one of the first folding bikes ever made. It's made in England. It's a Raleigh 20. I have one of those, and then I have the red one that I took to South America. That's here.
But you're not using it anymore.
Ines and I have done some rides to the park. There's a bike path that starts just outside our house and goes to this lake. You can ride around the lake. It's quite nice. But I don't. You rode when you were here. You rode on the bike. We took the bikes.
Was it this one? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
You were riding.
No,
you were riding.
I was on
the
bike. I was riding a bicycle which was very hard to balance.
Yeah.
Is it this one?
Well, that was the one.
Okay.
You were riding the one I rode in Patagonia and all those places. Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't actually. You were the first person to ride it since South America, because I hadn't tightened. I hadn't tightened all of the screws, and some things were moving. I think I think the seat was moving. You had some difficulty. It wasn't safe, but you did a great job. You didn't fall down. You were able to eat a cheeseburger.
Oh, that was no. It was a hot dog.
Oh, right.
Was it?
Yeah, you were very excited.
Yeah, I mean.
Well, you were very excited about the fast food. You wanted a lot of fast food.
No, but this was, how do you call these trucks? Food trucks. They normally have very high quality food, and in America you just know how to make these things, burgers and hot dogs and all this meat stuff. I think the American cuisine, when it comes to meat, it's very unhealthy, but it's tasty. Oh my God! Spanish cuisine, I think, is actually below average. It's not very good food. They have good bread. They have good serrano ham, bacon.
Oh, the cured meats.
Yeah,
all those cured meats that they have hanging in the barns.
But I don't want to eat it every day. You know what I mean? So Austrian food, I think, is better than Spanish food.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Of course, you have access to way more good, high quality, and also healthy ingredients in Spain, which you don't have to import because it's a very, very fertile land. And also it has more sun, so all of the fruits, including tropical fruits, grow there. Even if you have to use one of these glass houses, how do you call them in English?
Greenhouse.
Yeah.
Greenhouse.
But they just don't know how to use these ingredients. They don't use spices. It's very, yeah, not when it comes to taste, a very boring cuisine, I think. So and this is very tasty in America.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people put American cuisine down, but there's a lot of good things here, especially barbecue.
But I find
Barbecue.
this very interesting because you told me once, and I remember this because now I'm experiencing this very much, that food becomes most of the time a very boring thing, because you told me that the first time you actually tasted something good was in France, as far as I remember. And in
Yeah,
America,
that's
you
true.
never had an exciting feeling when you ate something before.
Yeah, I remember the first time I was in France, and I was in the countryside, and it was the season when tomatoes uh, were everywhere,
Mm.
and I had never. I thought, oh, I'm cycling. The tomatoes are cheap. I'm going to get some tomatoes. They were really cheap because it was the season, so they were everywhere, and you could get them. They looked beautiful, so I figured, oh, tomatoes. I'll get some tomatoes tonight. And I tried a tomato, and I had this experience of eating a tomato, which I'd never had before. It's so sweet, and it was, a tomato was actually a fruit, and I never thought of it as a fruit, and I realized it was a fruit, and it was delicious. And these tomatoes were so wonderful. That was just one of the many experiences that I had.
Mm.
That something could be so delicious, and of course, bread. You can have some bread sometimes. There was a place in Paris that had this incredible bread. These baguettes were incredible. Never had bread like that. I don't eat bread anymore, but I still dream about that bread with some beurre salé, salt butter. You put that on that bread as it just gets out of the oven in the bakery. You go at the right time when it just gets out and it's still hot and it just melts on there. Oh, it's I never knew bread could taste like that. I never knew tomatoes could taste like that. And yeah, that was a real experience for me. I'd never really tasted a lot of these things
Okay.
being in America.
Yeah. Yeah, but in terms of proper dishes, I mean, not bread or a vegetable or a fruit. Yeah, I think
Well, the dishes
American
too.
dishes are fantastic.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of things America does really well.
Yeah.
I'm sure if a cheeseburger. There's a couple places in New York. There's one bar in particular in the West Village that makes the most incredible cheeseburgers in the whole world. I still dream about them. Oh, this place. Oh, God, I would get. It's worth a trip to New York. I would go right back. Oh, Andreas, if we ever go to New York, I'll take you there. It's probably still there,
Ah,
but it's a bar.
I'm
It's a bar, and
I'm
you can
not
sit in the
sure.
back
I'm
and have
not sure
cheeseburgers.
if it's worth to go to this city. I don't have any interest to go to this place. You know what I once did? We had a podcast which we called which you called Once I Lost My Soul. And when this happened, I lost the possibility to get excited because of food. So I
Oh,
thought
right.
I lost the sense of taste, which was not true. I just lost the 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 skill to get excited. So there was no, yeah, this tastes good. Everything was just, there was also no, this tastes horrible. I cannot eat it. I just could do anything because anything did not matter. But anyway, when it came back, I flew to Napoli. I mean, I did not only fly there for a pizza because I traveled for a couple of weeks there. I don't do normally weekend trips by flight. I mean, I don't do city trips anyway anymore. Um, but yeah, that was really worth it. pizza is definitely a reason to go somewhere far. Good one.
But that pizza, was that pizza the first food you had that excited you again?
No. But
Is that
it was because I just love pizza so much, and yeah, and you know when you feel when you feel weird like this, which happened to me, then I told myself, okay, you have to because you remember you love pizza so much, and when it comes back, then you celebrate that it came back by eating the best possible pizza, which obviously is in Napoli, where the pizza originally comes from, and it was really really good. I mean, I tried a couple of different pizzerias in Napoli, and all of them were just fantastic. And southern Italy is beautiful anyway. Yeah, food. Spain cannot compete. That's definitely true.
I'm disappointed by that. I thought there were some good Spanish dishes.
Yeah, there is, but it's nothing. It's nothing.
But I mean, how many good dishes does the country need? You know, America has hamburgers and barbecue. You don't need that many. Every country's got a few.
Yeah.
I would say the most interesting country still is France, though. There's just such diversity and such great food. You never ate so well as traveling in France, but yeah. Hey, should we wrap this up?
Yeah.
We're at like an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, and it's getting late anyway. For me, at least.
Oh, for me, the day is just beginning.